Ambrus Maropis rarely leaves his opulent apartment in Cyprus to meet the public, yet his reputation as a trendsetter and masquerade protector spreads wildly throughout Kindred society. The Toreador who know that Ambrus is a Nosferatu loathe the vampire's popularity. His disciples, akin to superfans, act as go-betweens to princes and barons, while he remains forever hidden. Ambrus has a reputation as a vampire on the cutting edge of technology and culture. Embraced in his late teens, Ambrus is, at heart, an introvert fan of anime, gaming, and online role-playing, with an elaborate online persona. Ambrus uses this persona to sell software and information he hacks, advise on the best security methods stolen from governments and corporations for Kindred to utilize, inform Elysia about emerging musicians, entertainers, and trends, and makes himself an invaluable resource to Camarilla and anarchs who want to appear more human than human. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness. And it's Metaplot Monday, and today we'll be going over another lore sheet. We're going to be going over the Ambrus Maropis lore sheet, which is it's very interesting. I like to go into the White Wolf wiki and other online sources to try to find information on these characters, but I'm pretty sure Maropis was actually created for V5, but there is not much information I can find on him. In fact, the White Wolf fan wiki states that the only references for him are the core book, which may be a little annoying to people who have an earlier printing, because he's actually not in that book. But if you have a book that was printed later on, and you do have the further lore sheets that were added to the book after the initial distribution, then yes, he is in fact in there under the lore sheets section. Now, luckily, I do want to point out that if you go to the World of Darkness website, you should be able to print out copies of those lore sheets. As annoying as that is, I know I'd rather have them inside of my book. Unfortunately, I have them here stapled together that I've been working off of. And there are actually quite a few lore sheets that were just not included in the original edition of the core book. That being said, Maropis is such a very interesting example of what a Kindred could be. He leads to the most hypocritical issues with the Camarilla because they see him as a celebrity. Now, like the introduction of this said, the Toreador hate him when they find out that he is in fact a Nosferatu, because he's a Nosferatu, and Nosferatu should not have as much popularity as he does within their eyes. But the Camarilla as a whole do tend to want to keep him around because of his ability of security. But the reason I say that it's hypocritical is because they want to not use any type of technology when it comes to keeping vampiric society moving. They think they should revert to the Dark Ages, but they're still utilizing his services, as are the anarchs. And I think it's kind of interesting. It's definitely not a character that would be a good player character. But Ambrus Maropis does make an amazing NPC. Maropis was actually the focal point of the cinematic that I did for the Obfuscate discipline, I believe. And it does get into some pretty interesting descriptions of how he acts when he has to interact with humans, but it doesn't go too far into his life. So let's go ahead and take this deep dive chance to get into what this lore sheet does for the players when they take it. True believer, if Ambrus has taught you anything, it's that the Camarilla is right and the masquerade is essential. You follow his edicts on security and subterfuge religiously, granting you knowledge to the best shared Kindred hiding places in a city, providing a 1 die bonus to test to find such a place. You may not have access to this bonus if the domain typically opposed to your political or philosophical views. So this primarily says you might know where the best hiding places are, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you yourself will be safe there, because if you do not share the same political or ideological views as the other kindred in the city who also know where this safe haven is, they could very well turn against you, making you safe for Masquerade in general, but in danger in the political shark tank that is the World of Darkness. I really do like this. I think this is worth 1 point, and the fact that it's not a limited to one-time use per chronicle is a good thing. It does make a lot of sense that you are just going to have this knowledge when you know how to use Ambrose's technological savvy, because you can break into the NSA and the local CCTV and things like that, where you can actually see where things are happening. Investing 2 traits into this lore sheet gets you clandestine information. You can use a digital dead drop to request a hack from Ambrose's fan community. Once per story, you can get 1 piece of information stored online about most mortals within 2 to 20 hours. I think deciding the 2 to 20 hours would be based on a roll. Personally, I think if you take a regular D10 number die and roll it, and if you get a 1, it would be 2 hours. If you get a 2, it would be 4 hours, and so on and so forth. I do like the idea of being able to basically hack into what would be considered ShrekNet. I understand that ShrekNet for the World of Darkness is disposed of for the most part, at least for right now, but this does give you backdoor access into what would remain of said things, and being able to get other people who are deeper involved in this network of Ambrose's allies and contacts to be able to search for those things for you. Basically indicating that there might be some people better than you, but you at least have access to them. Investing 3 traits into this lore sheet gets you taught by the best. As one of Ambrose's disciples, you are provided with a ready supply of intel on topics from the Second Inquisition operations to the fashion in Harajuku tomorrow night. Ambrose can also time lock in information in the dark web, or set you up with your own Ukrainian hacker at friend prices. Consider Ambrose a 3-dot mala. I do like the idea of using Ambrose as a go-between on this kind of thing. He can leave you information for a certain amount of time online, making sure that nobody else can get it, or he can set you up with a friend of his, and you have a friend of a friend basis for some shady dealings. That's interesting. I'm not really sure how far to go into this, and being able to see him as a 3-dot mala on this one does come in handy when it comes to that sort of thing, because he is reaching out, and it giving you the option of using him as a 3-dot mala really does set a level of limitation on the kind of things that he can provide, but it's all online functions. That does make me as a storyteller stop and think about the kind of things that could very well be done with this type of lore sheet. Investing 4 traits into this lore sheet gets you Backdoor Panopticon. Ambrose hooked you up with a backdoor into Prism Nucleon surveillance software, tracking and sorting online communications, including cell phone calls, for keywords and names. Or perhaps you stole it from him, or found it on a machine in a safe house, an Ambrosite, abandoned in a hurry. Either way, you can only log in once per story for security's sake, but it gets you 2 automatic successes on an investigation test involving anyone's cell activity or online presence. That is so now. That is the kind of thing that we know is happening with our cell phones and our online presence, that there's always some type of algorithm that is just watching everything that we say, and that we could be added to watch lists and things like that just by saying or typing specific things. I know that I've had to explain to people on multiple occasions that there's not anybody just sitting in a room watching, you know, what you're doing. You don't have like a specific spy on yourself, most likely. But there are algorithms out there that ping with notice whenever we say certain things, which might gain us online activity. There's a good chance that the video that I'm uploading right now has pinged some things because I'm talking about online surveillance and backdoor activity and access into things that we shouldn't have access into, because that's who Ambrus Maropis is. Now, having this kind of thing means that you have a software that you can run for limited amounts of time, which could get you caught having it, because this is obviously not something for civilian use. And being able to utilize this once per story, so once every few sessions, and if your storyteller is the kind of storyteller that uses story arcs to help tell the tale, I can imagine this being used in my game to acquire certain knowledge with things that are going on. You could use it to spy on ghouls, to spy on herd, to find out if there's a mortal hunter who's been acting out on you, or things like that. Like there are a variety of things that Backdoor Panopticon could actually be used for. Investing 5 traits gets you on another grid entirely. Ambrus went all out with your false identity. You have 2 mask cover identities and have been zeroed. You get 3 extra dice to resist attempts to research you online or uncover your activities in the mortal world. You're not only not you anymore, but you're 2 other people. You have access to being able to do that, and being zeroed means that all of your information has just been erased. This is such a good thing that, I don't know, I think I would probably say that I would let you use this later. Perhaps if you became compromised with the SI or something like that. This is definitely worth 5 points. I understand that you are just talking about 4 points for the mask, but to be zeroed out completely off the government grid, not being able to be found or known by the NSA and things like that is so valuable in a game like Vampire the Masquerade, that the fact that this is on here at all is pretty outstanding. Ambrus Maropis is such an integral part to vampire survival right now. In a world where the Camarilla is completely against technological uses, they still allow this guy, this Autarch, to continue doing what he's doing because he's so damn good at it. That's inspiring. That is a very interesting Nosferatu. He kind of reminds me of Dev Null from Vampire Redemption, which he was a Malkavian, but the hacking aspect of it, I think he may have been at least semi-inspired by the character. I'm going to ask the question that I always ask. Have any of you ever used Ambrus Maropis's lore sheet? And if you have, what level and what do you use it for? Because this is such a personalized lore sheet that I'm interested in knowing all the little details on what you guys might actually be succeeding with using this Nosferatu's gifts. I am Voivode Maquette. This is our World of Darkness. And we have just taken a deep dive into Ambrus Maropis's lore sheet for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. Good evening.